You go. Well, hello, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of people in the news in North Texas. My guest today is Bob Williams, founder and CEO of Ranch Hands Rescue, a 501c3 organization that fills a special niche in mental health counseling. Good afternoon, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me. It's a
Thanks
big
for
honor
being
to
here.
be here.
All
Yeah,
right, let's
thank you.
begin, if you would, by giving our viewers a brief description of the services offered by Ranch Hands Rescue.
Sure. Well, what we're really known for is we do something very unique, and we're a farm animal sanctuary. All right, for special needs animals. So back in 2008, we started the animal sanctuary, and but we only wanted to take special needs animals. I call them the throwaways. The ones that nobody wants. They're typically, the most expensive to rehab. And I basically thought, they're just as important as the healthy animals. So why not, establish a home for them? And I discovered something very interesting. I was diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety in 1997, and I noticed that the animals were having a very special effect on me. So I designed a counseling program for kids that had been sexually abused and sex trafficked, where we partner animals in mental health therapy. And it's a very unique program. Um, the best way to think about our counseling program is that in any segment of the population, Bob, there's about 1 to 8% of kids or individuals who need a different or more alternative approach to mental health therapy. So those are the kids that, they don't have a place to go. When kids regress in counseling, we start seeing eating disorders, self-harm. We probably have 15 kids in our program right now. They're cutting their forehead, their cheeks, their arms, that sort of thing. So we have 28 partner agencies that we work with in the Metroplex, the Children's Advocacy Centers, Children's Hospitals, CASA, other organizations that refer clients to us. And our criteria for free services is that they must have been in a program previously and they're not getting better. All right. So typically when an agency refers to us, we provide those services either totally free or subsidized with a low copay. And so you've got the animal sanctuary, you've got the counseling program, which works for anybody. I mean, 80% of our clients are kids who have either been through long-term physical or sexual abuse or sex trafficking. And about 20% are veterans with severe PTSD, anxiety, that sort of thing. We've got some police officers in our program, battered women, that sort of thing. But we've got a complete psychological team. So we do assessments, we do just about everything you can think of. And we call it animal therapy, but we also do EMDR and CBT and SAND therapy and play therapy and faith-based therapy. So we combine all these issues in mental health. And then 2 years ago, I was asked to be part of, actually about 3 years ago, a task force that was forming here in North Texas to look at human trafficking and to, identify what was happening and to, establish services and programs and try to figure out, how do we arrest the traffickers and how big is the problem and that sort of thing. And from that, I was asked to be on the governor's task force for the human trafficking of boys to develop a strategy, a 5-year plan for not only how big is the problem, but what are we going to do to address it. And then secondly, I'm on the Attorney General's task force for human trafficking. So we committed 2 years ago to opening the first ever safe house in the country for young men 18 to 24 that have been sex trafficked. And it's a huge problem in the country today. And it's hard to believe that there isn't one safe house in the country for young men. So we announced on Wednesday with Sheriff Tracy Murphy and Judge Andy Eads, and Chief Frank Dixon got called out at the last minute, but he's part of our press team. But that we're going to open June 1st. So the house is just about complete. We're really proud of it, and we're going to be able to help these young men.
Wow, that you answered a lot of questions already. I was going to ask you how you got the idea to bring abused and neglected animals with abused and neglected people. Somehow there's the relationship helps helps both of them.
Well, I'll tell you how it started. So, a little bit about me. I'm a survivor, Bob. I was raped as a teenager. And, my dad was retired military. And back in those days, I was a junior in high school when this happened. I was brutally beat, I was raped, and I spent a week in the hospital. And when my dad picked me up, he said, "You're just going to man up, and we're never ever going to talk about this again." Now, to put things in perspective, he was married to my mother before he died for 56 years, and she had never known that he had was awarded the Bronze Star and a host of other medals and things like that, because those World War II veterans, as you know, didn't talk about it. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's
And
right.
so there wasn't programs for boys back in those days. So, my dad, when I made amends with him years later, with tears in his eyes, said, I loved you so much, I just didn't know how to help you. And so I couldn't process what happened to me. I turned to drugs and alcohol. I was homeless at 20, active in my addictions in my 20s, got clean and sober at 26, relapsed at 27, got clean and sober at 28, and I've been clean and sober ever since. So my journey has been a long one of, a lot of counseling, taking accountability for, even though I was an innocent victim for, my actions in terms of what I did to myself. But when you're in that dark space, you don't care what happens to you. You don't even want to live. And for me, I thought that everything had been taken from me. And so I just didn't care if I lived or died. And so I just basically existed. And I tell people that I'm one of the lucky ones. I was fortunate enough to get hired by Motorola. Motorola put me back in school. I had a very long, great career with them. But in 2007, I had a stroke. And that stroke was a big wake up call to me because it really scared me. And at the same time, my closest friend was Jeffrey Frost, who was our chief marketing officer at Motorola. And he had a heart attack in London and died because they couldn't get medical services to him. And I thought, I don't want to be that guy. I just, whatever time I have left, I want to do something really good in my life. And I don't say this to sound pretentious, but my closest friend for 25 years, and many people know it, and Max has met her, and I'm not sure if you've met her or not, but was Doris Roberts, who was most famously known for playing the TV mom on the show Everybody Loves Raymond. And we talked every day. And Doris and I had a lot in common because she was also a survivor. She was sexually abused as a child. She had addiction issues. I mean, even though she was 40 years older than me, we were just best buddies. And I started saving animals by accident. There wasn't, just as something to do when I decided to retire. And as I said, the story's kind of interesting. When I first, Doris said, if you want to start, an animal, a not-for-profit animal sanctuary, I'll help you raise money. And I thought, great. But I said, I want to do more than that. I want to save special needs animals, but I also want to help people because that's a big part of, what I think our future should be. So I discovered this whole thing by accident. And I can tell you this story. I'll try to cut it short if you'd like to hear it, of kind of how we got started with the council.
Sure, please.
Well, if you research mental health therapy with animals, you'll find a tremendous amount of data about the power of horses with wounded warriors, for example. We know that dogs lower blood pressure in, hospitals and nursing homes. We know the value of service dogs and so on and so forth. So there's a tremendous amount of data. But what there isn't any data on in the entire world is the power of abused and neglected animals in mental health therapy. We're the first to collect it in a partnership with the University of Oregon, and not only validate the data because our testing results are so great, but we're going to publish them because we want to be able to share this information with the world, that this program, how it works and why it works, because our testing results are off the charts great with this segment of the population that so needs our help. I mean, the 1 to 8% that we serve are just like the animals. You know what I mean? They don't. Where do they go? So what happened was I developed a pilot program. It was very difficult to find a counselor that would work with me. And I knew there was something there, but I didn't know how to put it together. And I would call all these counselors and I would say, hey, I got this idea. And they all said, no, it's never going to work, Bob. You got to have healthy animals, just not going to work. And so I met this counselor by the name of Kim, and this was in 2009. And she was working with kids that have been abused and with healthy horses, doing trauma therapy. And I said, hey, would you meet with me? And I met with her and I went through my whole life story. And I told her, hey, I got this idea, because I'd go to the doctor and my heart doctor and my neurosurgeon would say, what's happening with you? You're like a different person, because I've always been a little high strung. But I knew that there was something there with this bond. All right. And and she basically said, it's just not going to work. And I said, I just kept hounding her. The one thing, Bob, that I learned from Doris all those years was she had this motto: I don't give in, I don't give up, I don't take no for an answer, and I never ever settle. All right. And Doris was an amazing role model for me, and she was a great mentor, plus a dear friend. And so I just kept hounding Kim, saying, would you at least try it? So finally she called me up and she said, you know what, I'm going to bring a couple of kids over there and I'm going to try it and I'm going to see how it works. So I said, okay. So she called me up and she said, we need to meet. She said, Bob, I got to tell you something. There's something to this. It's like the animals that have been traumatized can sense what the child has gone through, and they form this bond. And when the bond is formed, the child starts to feel more comfortable and talk about what happened to them. And I said, bingo, you know what I mean? So will you help me put together a program? So she said, yeah. So we designed this incredible program and we took it to the Children's Advocacy Center in 2010 and gave them this great presentation. And the executive director looked at me and said, Bob, I got to tell you something. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You are going to help a lot of people. And I said, Dan, that's amazing. When can we start? And he goes, no, 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 no. We got 21 counselors. You know what I mean? We don't need you. We just think you're going to do great things in the community. And I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, sure. And I said, can you save every child? And he said, you know what? You got something there. So we started a pilot program with them, and it was a huge success. And again, it was the kids or the individuals who weren't getting better, all right, that were referred to us for this type of therapy. And as I mentioned, today we have 28 partner agencies. So the best way to really, I never wanted to take away anything from any organization, because I know they can do great work. But there's this special niche, you know what I mean? Individuals with multiple trauma.
Yeah.
Take, for example, even though we specialize in kid, we see this in our veterans. You have a veteran who was sexually abused as a child, okay? It never gets reported or treated. Then they go into the military, they see combat, all right? Now they have PTSD, they have trauma on top of trauma. And so what happens is that that's one of the reasons for that the suicide rate is so high. They're not able to process or function in society. Those are the types of cases that we can really help. And so when we're able to say this is what we specialize in, and again, I didn't want to take anything away. I knew that they could help 95% of the people and that they could do great work. I wanted to fill a void. That's all I ever wanted to do. So when I started the animal sanctuary for special needs animals, there wasn't one. When I started the counseling program for this segment of the population, the 1 to 8% that needs a different or more alternative approach, there wasn't one. And now with the establishment of Bob's House of Hope, the first safe house in the country for young men 18 to 24, there wasn't one. So again, it was just to, fill the void in our communities and try to help as many people as we can. And the most important thing that we can give them is hope. All right. And we can teach them their trauma is never going to go away like mine. It's never going to go away. But I have the skill sets now to be able to deal with it if I have a nightmare or if I get triggered or whatever the situation, is with me that happens. And that's what we can give these kids, and that's what we give these individuals every day so that they can have a full and productive life.
Wow, that is that is a lot. I mean, that's quite a story. I didn't know that much about it. Bob, let me go ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
Sort of like just general information for the public. Where is Branch Hands Rescue located, and how many people work in your organization?
Well, we've got 16 total right now. We're hiring 5 to 6 more for the Safe House. So we're a small organization, but I like to say small and mighty. We've got a facility in Argyle, and then of course the Safe House is in Denton. So we see in our program every week probably over 110 kids from multiple agencies that are referred to us from around the Metroplex. We basically serve 9 counties, so people drive a long way,
Yeah,
to come
yeah.
to come.
You have a
see
lot
us.
of volunteers?
We do. Now, the challenge with us, because we have a duty to protect these kids, all right, is so we're very similar to any organization that works with kids that have been sexually abused or sex trafficked. Volunteers can do a variety of things for us, but they have to be able to pass a full FBI background checks.
Absolutely.
They have to have their fingerprints on file with not only the sheriff's department, but the police department. And then, we do FBI fingerprints. So, and we have to be careful because of HIPAA and other, situations and the trauma that these young people have gone through. We don't want to have volunteers too close to them because the kids will shut down, the individuals will shut down. So, but we've got a lot of office work. We've got, it's like churches and people have helped us with planting flowers and, setting up the house. And we're going to have a mentoring program. So our philosophy for the Safe House is really simple. And this is one way that people can really help us. The first thing we're going to do is put God in their life. And for me, it's God, but for them, it may be some sort of a higher power. You got to remember, these young men have been sex trafficked, 6, 8, 10 times a day to different people. Many of them have been trafficked to men and women, all right, and several animals have been brought into the trafficking. There's not one rational person who can even understand or comprehend how terrible this is, all right, the evil in the world. So we're going to do everything we can. And I think we can do that by, the example of how we live our life, all right, and how we treat them, because this is going to be a home. It's not going to be an institution. Yeah. We're going to give them all the medical care that they need, the not only the physical, all right, but also the mental, the psychological testing to determine, is there any bipolar, mental issues, autism, what exactly is happening, and then we're going to give them dental and so on and so forth through our partners here in the city of Denton. And we're going to have a grandparenting program because I think they need to be nurtured and loved. We're going to get them back in school. We're going to get them their GEDs, teach them a trade, or send them to college. We're going to leverage our veterans and other professionals, to both men and women, to mentor these young kids, all right, and to give them hope and to teach them things. So we've got very specific training programs that we've designed for how are we going to do that, because we're dealing with, even though this is boys, it's the same issue that you have with women. So we have several women who have been sex trafficked in our program, in our counseling program, the youngest of which was 6 years old, all right, which was a huge case here in Denton. Nobody knew that child was with us, but she was with us for 2 years. And so we've got a lot of great experience with the counseling piece of it and the psychological piece of it, but we need to treat body, mind, and spirit. Do you see what I'm saying? And my personal belief is if you don't have God in your life, there's not a lot of good going to happen for you. And that's going to take time, Bob. That's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, because you're dealing with children are very distrustful at that point. Who do they trust now?
Exactly.
Don't trust people. They don't trust anything. No. Approximately how many people have been treated? How many people and animals have been treated? I mean, is it like hundreds and hundreds?
We've saved over 650 special needs animals to date. And we've treated over 2,000 kids and individuals, women, men, you know what I mean, that sort of thing, since 2010. The average child is with us 15 to 16 months. The average adult is with us 10 to 11 months. The safe house is designed for a 2 to 3 year minimum stay. All right. We think it's going to take that long to be able to deal with this level of trauma and to get them to become productive members of society again.
Bob, how do you come across them? Uh, how do you get alerted to who needs this type of counseling?
Mostly law enforcement. So one of the things that, I always tell the public and even our partners, as difficult as it is, sometimes it's good that these people are arrested, because keep in mind that, like, law enforcement's dealing with them uh, because many of them are on the streets having survival sex, or they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, robbing or stealing in order to survive. All right. So if we can get them away from the trafficker, all right, by the fact that they're in jail, then we have a great opportunity to reach them. All right. So today, law enforcement's learning more and more about what to look for with boys, because we call them the unseen survivors. The myth is boys can get away. Well, the reality is they can't. And when somebody drugs you up, we just saved this young man, 20 years old. Okay. The amount of drugs that he was on, all right, and we had him in the hospital for 2 weeks, just detoxing him. Well, half of them I never heard of. Okay. But, we all know meth and heroin, the main ones, but there's just so many different drugs. And that's part of the trauma bonding. Is the reason that they can put them out on the street is because they come back to them because they need the drugs.
They need the drugs, right?
Right. So it's a tough issue, you know what I mean, to deal with. And but we think we can handle it. You know what I mean? We're gonna do everything we can to.
Apparently you are. Let me ask basically, is there a charge for the counseling services?
So primarily, our services are free to victims. All right. We have a scholarship program that we utilize for low-income families, and we also have Hispanic-speaking counselors. But we do get calls from people that say, my daughter's been bullied. She's got some serious issues, and they'd be a full pay client. They wouldn't be a referral. All right. Gotcha. So they would come to us, and we take Blue Cross and Blue Shield and a whole host of insurances. But primarily our practice is referrals from our partner agencies. And then those services are either subsidized or totally free.
And how is Ranch Hands Rescue financed?
Well, we have, we're a public charity, so obviously donations are a huge part of what we always need, you know what I mean? But we're funded by our grant partners. So we have significant grant partners, not only in Texas, but across the country, who fund our counseling programs. Grants are really specific to what your needs are. There are some foundations that'll help fund, programs for animals, but they're very few and far between. Many of them will fund programs for kids and things like that. So that's how we're funded. And obviously, when people see me coming, they always run because I got my hand out. You know what I mean? But it's not for me. It's for those we serve. Grant partners will not fund for staffing. They won't fund for, paying the rent or whatever else. But I'm proud to say that, we're completely self-sufficient from the standpoint that we're debt-free. We don't owe a nickel on anything.
And I have the website is in the written portion of this, and people can get to the website and get more information and donate.
And they can get involved, Bob. If they want to be a mentor, if they want to help out financially, if they want to sponsor a child, there's a lot of ways through our website that they can get involved. And I'm happy to meet and talk with anybody at any time.
And it's I believe it's www.ranchhandsrescue.org.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Yeah, it's in the written portion. All right, Bob, we're coming down to the close. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to say that for me, this is a big honor to be with you today. I think that, we've started this dialogue about talking about the severity of sex trafficking of boys and young men. The average age that boys are targeted on the internet, Bob, is 13 years old. And parents and people have to understand that this is happening in every community across the country.
That's right, yeah.
We're going to be able to take young men from around the country into the safe house. But I think it's critical that parents are monitoring where their kids are going on the internet, that they understand that predators stay up 24 hours to try to figure out how to get to them.
That's right.
Social media, it can be a great thing, but it can also be a curse because people are scrolling through those pictures. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Parents have got to get a grip on that.
Trying to get to your kids. So what I would say is that, it does take a village, you know what I mean? It takes all of us working together, supporting each other, and in Denton County, we have amazing leadership. I mean, look at the number of not-for-profits that we have here, the great things that are happening in our community with a variety of not-for-profits. And so this is a group of people who help each other. All right. And I think that's what we should all be doing today, is taking care of each other. And
as a community, we are honored indeed to have people like you doing what you do, because there is a need out there, and people have to be educated about this over and over again, because a lot of people still don't get it. They still don't realize how many dangers are out there, and it's hovering all around us. I keep learning all the time. When I do these videos, I do these interviews, I keep learning more and more about these. And there are a lot of great organizations throughout North Texas that work to help others. They work diligently, and you're certainly one of them, Bob. It's been an honor to meet you through this interview. I hope to see you in person again sometime. It's been a while.
And I want to thank you for your service, for all you do for the community. I know you're a former police officer, and as I said, it's an honor to be with you today, Bob. I look forward to shaking your hand soon.
Okay, and same to you, Bob. Have a great weekend.
God bless.
God bless you.